Alrighty. Here we go. Here we go. And here we go again, right? Back in here, like I said, with a part two. Just to go in a little more. Just, as I would say, for the sake of stating what is and what isn't. At least when it comes to personal opinions through experience. So, a little earlier, I think it was about 4 hours ago, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was about 4 hours. Brought in the topic of respect and saying it, right? And how I wanted to put some change on it, right? And I even went in just a little, right? Just a little regarding personal interactions, right? When we have those one on one personal associations, right? Respect. Can I say it? Can I say it? And put some change on it, right? So, when it comes to personal relations, personal associations, personal business, right? That we can conduct with one another, right? For me, again, as I say, right, for me, in my opinion, there has to be a level of respect. There's gotta be a level of respect. And sometimes, do we really know? Right? Do we really know whether or not one is showing respecting the stance where it comes equally, right? The give and the take, the equal exchange of energy, right? To produce something, to create, to co-create, lab. Is that the right way to say it? Is that the right way to say it? Either way, it's my way of saying it, right? So, how do you do this? Right? How does this come about? Where does where does the beginning form? Right? Where does one learn certain skills when it comes to communication, when it comes to openness, awareness, right? To respect. Let's keep it with the respect, right? But, in general, where does one learn? Where does one gather information if not from those that they are closely around? Right? Those that they interact with the most, they spend the most quality time with, they share personal thoughts, personal experiences, personal goals, right? As you go in life, as you travel through the many different people you will meet, that you have met, that you still are due to meet, if I'm making sense, right? And again, gotta ask the question, respect, right? Where can one accumulate a sense of responsibility to take account in or for or around society? Again, if I'm making sense, right? So, as you go through life and you meet people, right? And you begin to progress in certain processes, right? We have so many different levels we go through, right? At first, it's always home base, right? The roots, the foundation of the beginning to who we are, right? AKA mom and dad, right? So, again, when we start to accept certain things, we start to apply certain things, we start to even make decisions, right, for ourselves and who we talk to, who we don't talk to, how much we share, how much we open up, right? The things we say, the topic that gets discussed the most, right? When we look at it, when one can look at it or go into thought to reflect, right? You have to ask the question, right? And apply when necessary. Are certain tools of skills still beneficial, right? Are certain root seeds and even certain gems, right, that say it gets accumulated within a family, right? When we begin to know and explore, or we begin to hear and discover, right, certain aspects of life that are laid out right in front of us, is displayed on and reacted on and reinforced often, right? And not only often, frequently, right? And not only frequently, it's almost consistently, to a point where you gotta ask, am I dedicating myself to something, right? And of course, when it's beneficial, when it helps to learn, grow, and improve, when, as they say, right, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You allow the acceptance of keeping certain things and reinforcing certain things, right? So, how much of it do we honestly and sincerely keep within us, right? How much of our roots do we still stand sturdy in, right? That even after all this time, even after all these years, certain things are just, as I would say, common sense, right? Or easy to know because you're in the known of it, right? So, where do we draw the line, right? Where do the safe boundaries get set and addressed, right? Because, hey, taking into consideration how, for instance, right, if you can look into your own family, your own relatives, your own circle of bloodline, right, and you see a certain image, you see a certain repetition, you see a certain idea of upkeeping, of maintaining, of what is right for us as a whole unit, as a family, empire, right? Taking that into consideration, do we all have or hold the same upbringing, right? So when it comes to how one addresses, how one communicates, how one establishes and maintains a certain level of respect, right? One can easily look into what I just mentioned, right? The roots of a person, of a family, of a empire in generations, right? There's the initial poster purpose, if we're making sense, right? And where do you fit in, right? Where do you mentally assert yourself? What do I mean? How much do you know self, right? How much of knowledge and respect for you goes into a flow or a outpour, right, of equally distribution and respect, care, support, love, creativity, positivity, determination, focus, unity, right? Where do you stand? Where does your mind level, right? as that process goes through your mind, right, as that process gets dissected into direction, right, to who you're addressing, right, and that is a whole nother level of responsibility, right, where you not only know, right, but you understand, and you overstand who you are. And so that knowledge is key, right, into introspection, right, of acceptance, awareness, and discernment to who you're speaking to, who you're in front of, who you're interacting and associating with, right? So that, again, a baseline of respect can be brought forth, right? Because it is just me, right? Just my opinion and something go crazy, right? But hey, acceptance is one of my tools, right? When you accept self, you can accept a lot of things, right? And within that, you grow in comfortability, right? And accepting more of who you are. And again, as I said earlier, right? As I mentioned earlier, representing that, right? And so the more you stand firm in that representation, how does groups, right, societies, communities of people, individuals that are around your life, right, because true to reality, they're experiencing the same timeline I am, right, and that respect is there, yet you're respecting who you are and what you're doing and how you intend to bring that into fulfillment. The more you embrace this, right, the more you accept the allowance of it, right, to just breathe out you, right, because you breathe in you and you accept it, right, and you come to terms with, if needed, right, certain improvements or certain level ups or even certain uprooting and changing and replanning and reforming a life of mind for you, right? We all change due to accepting new things, right? And the more you accept, as I say, right, the wholeness of who you are, the more comments, the more opinions that others can show or even share or even talk about just becomes a non-factor to the point only that it's an opinion, right? And your only job is to clarify on whether or not that opinion is true or not, right? And we all have our ways of showing and displaying it, right? So, again, individual style, individual acceptance, right, is always needed, is always welcomed, is always appreciated when we accept life for what it is, right? And accept that we are a part of life. And even though we're a part of it, right, we can still stamp to showcase our own individual uniqueness, right? Again, in my opinion. So, rotating it back to personal connections and interactions with people, and how when addressing certain people, one has to have a certain discernment, right? Not only for themselves and who they are and who they're representing, but likewise for those that they encounter, right? And how do we know this, right? It's many different ways, right? In my opinion, yet to keep it on the topic, right? You can begin to identify who a person is by the level of respect that they show, right? And this is just personal experience of what can happen, right, on both sides of the field when it doesn't get addressed, right? Who a person can be, right? Or when it does get addressed, when that knowing is there, and how no matter what, right? It can go up, it can go down, it can go left, it can go right. It can go in circles, it can go in spirals, it can go to a little bit of crazy, it can go to an extreme, it can get a little hectic, chaotic, and the momentum of how long one continues the endurance of it is again based off of that individual, right? And how much they're willing to take, right? And how much they're willing to accept. And when you get to that, right, you can only look at it and appreciate it again for what it is, right? And maintain that maintenance and upkeeping you, right? So that you can maybe be that example, right? Or if nothing else, you will always stamp and certify your points, your precision, your direction, your longevity to what it is, who it is, and just how much or how hard you will go to keep that on record, right? In front at all times, on display, on notice of knowledge to keep the records updated, right? So the questions, right? The questions of how do we get to certain places, right? How do we still look up and again, depends on who you are, right? For me, I sometimes laugh at situations, right? Because it's beyond crazy, for lack of a better word at the moment, right? Of how far something can go, or how far someone will allow certain things to transpire or even unfold, right? And when you look at it from the outside, there's honestly so much, or for so long, that one can help support or even intercede, right? Yet when it's you, when it's yourself, when it's the individual moi, right? You can stop or go, you can change, you can create, you can redirect, right? You can, as one wants to, as far as limitations of production, as I'll say, right? We all have a creative nature inside and even purpose, right? And the more we show this, act this out, or even display it, so that we're comfortable with who we are, right? And there's not a need to, what's the right word? Compete, right? There's no need to compete except for self. Again, something that I do, right? I don't see the need for competition, right? Unless one is thinking or addressing about self, right? So again, it's on the individual and how they want to go about and see what is being seen, right? Or what is being said, or even what's being done, right? So sliding to the topic again of interacting with others, right? And knowing, or what is to know, and how one could keep a level of respect when socializing with others, right? The best example for me is how can describe it, right? And I didn't, after a while, continue to even further process the thought. It was just accepted as me, right? But my point is, my meaning is how I personally, right, as I grew up, right, as I began the awareness to certain things and those questions started just being blurted out of my mouth, right? I couldn't help but slide out of, I guess you can call it a habit, right? Where I look to the elders, right? I look to the grandmothers, right? I look to the grandfathers. I look to the uncles and those older cousins. Why? Well, for the most part, there was the majority around, right? There was always the adults around, right? And just certain ways, right? Just certain expressions and how, as I sat back and would watch the adults talk, right? I would listen to some of the stories that they would say, and it amazed me just how much my mind would spark with curiosity, with more questions, with more of this butterfly feeling, right? Oh, just I can't get enough, even though I can't describe it. I just want to know more. I want to know all. I have to get to the bottom of it, right? So, yeah, for me, that's basic knowing, right? Of how to show respect to who you were talking to, right? Who you were addressing, and how, right? You were a child, right? And I didn't get it then, right? Not gonna lie, not gonna hold you up. I didn't get it then, didn't like hearing it then, but of course now I do, right? Where they say, you know, this is some adult, this is some grown folk stuff. You a child, stay in a child's place, right? Go outside with the children, right? That level of respect, right? Sometimes, right? Even me, right? I had to get that frustration, right? I got to points of frustration because, yeah, there was things I wanted to know that I needed to know. And for me, in my mind, why not ask the people that I already know, right? That's just my common sense of it. So, and even taking that into consideration, right? Going, taking a moment down memory lane, right? And just all of the things that I've experienced and seen and heard and learned so young, right? At such an early age. That's saying, right, that this is some grown folks' business, right? And you're a child, stay in a child's place. That saying really registered, right? That example of respect, right? Because it gets to a point now that I'm older, now that I'm adult, now that I'm grown, right? Now that I've been through, been around some things of experience, I can accept it, right? It's so easy to accept where that makes sense, right? Because I can say it, right? I can say it for myself. There's a lot of things, right, that I should not have known, should not have experienced, should not have had to be dealt with to understand, right? To be disciplined with to a point where you have to say it, right? One grew up quicker than necessary, right? Because that sense of responsibility, because that sense of knowing, right? And as they say that once that innocence is gone, right? Can you ever really get it back? Right? So, yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of ways that for some, yeah, we have to still go through, right? We still have to experience, we still have to even, not just once, not just twice, not even just 3 times, right? Sometimes we really have to repeatedly go through certain examples. Say, okay, why? Right? Why is this still happening? Why is this still here? Why is this still normal? And then, right, once you get to that point, then you can change. Right? Then you can adjust, then you can regroup, reshape, and even reorganize if necessary, right? Yet, and still, until you get to that point, right? Until you get to the understanding, right? Until you get to that knowledge to know you will be accepting, right, of what you've been given example to or for or from, right? And so, again, when it comes to respect and knowing who you're addressing, knowing who you're talking to, and how if you want to be treated a certain way, right, you have to represent that for yourself. And as you converse and communicate, it just radiates, right? It just radiates off of you, and you might surprise and shock those that you interact with, right? Because it's just so bold. Like, wow, this person is very respectful, or this person is just, I don't know. I just get the vibe of importance. Like, are you a doctor? Are you a lawyer? Do you make a lot of money? Right? There's that aura of energy that we carry, that we possess. Right? So, where are you with it? Right? Where do you make your stance? Where do you show your representation? I don't know. This is just me, right? This is just me. Yet, and why I say, right? Certain people, it's normal, right? As easy as breathing, as easy as on the back of your hand, right? It's just so naturally go to where one displays respect, and how that Respect levels out in energy, right? Not only for you, but for those that you interact with, for those that you are around on a constant, or even those that you just interact with for a few minutes, right? We still are having those interactions. We still are having that blend of our energies, right? When we talk to people, it's a blending going on. It's a transfer of information, as I sometimes like to say, right? So, where do you stand? Right? Where are you? Where do you want it to be? Right? And this is why, again, like I always say, right? It's basic for me. Right? It's basic and it's easy for me to show respect, to show people respect, right? And it definitely goes in different layers and different forms, right? You have the women, right? And there's different relations, right? You have those that can be similar in age group to where you can see them as a sister, right? Or you can see those that are adult and grown, right? And they look like auntie, right? And then of course, you got those that are, as I would say, the elders, and you got the grandmas and the great grandmas, right? And so it just goes on and on and on, right? Just like for the women, you have the same with the men, right? You have the men that you can interact with that are on your same, say, age, right? Age group. And so they can be like a brother, right? And then you got those that are like the uncles or the grandpas, right? The great grandpas. And it just, again, it goes on and on and on, right? And then you got the babies, right? You got the little cuties. You got the children, right? And it's just, there's so many different ways, right, that you can look at a baby, a child, right? And again, for me, just natural, basic, right? When they're babies, when they're children, what do? How do you show a baby or a child respect? You're gentle with them, right? You're tender, right? Because you know and understand that they're still that sponge, right? And they're still absorbing everything that's around them. From what they see, what they hear, what they eat, what they touch, who they play around with, right? There's so much for a child to get into nowadays, right? So just that tenderness to, hey, right? Like I always say, right? Like I always say, was I not a child? Right? Did I not go through the baby stages, the child stages, the teenage stages, right? To get to the adult stage, right? And so if I'm not an adult, right, I'm not mature, right? And I'm so mature that I position myself into becoming a mom, becoming a dad, right? Why does the thoughts not stick? Right? Why does the acceptance overlook sometimes, right? Where, again, you gotta keep it basic, right? I was a child, so if I have a child, they're just another version of me, Right? They're another mini version of me. Granted, they are to a mini version of the other parent, right? So now you have what I would call, right, a hybrid, right? You have both the mom and the dad merged into one. Yet and still, right? Yet and still, even with that, there's still the basics. That's my child, right? Boy or girl, doesn't matter. And you have to look at it that way, right? It's just a little mini me. Right? So when you think about it, right? What did you used to do? Right? What did your natural curiosity lead you? Right? Was you, as they say, a little feisty when you were younger, right? Did you like to throw tantrums, right? Or were you more good behaving, right? Were you more quiet? Were you more calm, right? And again, as we go through life and then we're growing up and we're maturing, right? If we have certain base roots within us, aren't they still there? Do do they not grow with you and mature as you do? Right? So sometimes, right? Just sometimes we we can overlook a thing, right? And sometimes life is overwhelming, right? And it's not bad, it's not good, it's just overwhelming. And there's so much, right? There's so much that we have to get a grip on, to get a hold of, to get an understanding to. And with everything that we have, with everything that we know, with everything that there be seen as not necessary anymore, right? And where do we take that? Right? Like what do we do with those situations when we're in those positions? Right? When it's the truth of reality, right? When we face certain things, when we experience or go through, or go in or go around, right? Certain elements of life, when we choose to make certain decisions for our surroundings to improve it, right? To make something more fulfilling, right? Not necessarily better, not necessarily to say not better, right? Just more fulfilling, right? Just more to where you, right? Not being greedy, right? Not being a person of overindulging or just accumulating to just have, right? Because there's different reasons, right? And there's different levels, right? So where do we take it? Where do we go, right? When we do again get faced with certain things, right? Do we ask those questions? Do we work at finding a solution, or do we simply just allow certain things to be and certain things to go and accept it for what it is and look at it only at an angle of perception that says, well, if it's not personally connected to me, then why does my personal involvement needed or necessary? Right? And again, everyone has choices of decisions to make or break themselves for life and how they want to live it, right? And we have to respect all people for their individual choice. Yet and still, as a whole, right? As a community of living and breathing beings working to grow and maintain the breath of life, to maintain breathing in life, right? To maintain living in life, not just being there, right? Not just sitting, not just accepting, not just going about opportunities as though certain things shouldn't even be thought of, right? It shouldn't even be considered because it's you, right? Or because you're in a certain situation, or you're in a certain location, or you have even allowed a certain time to go by, right? Because again, we're all on our own different levels, and when we learn to respect and appreciate this, right? Can we point the finger at self and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to improve? What do I need to ask that question to maybe readjust certain things, right? So that if I do have a problem, right, if I am complaining, if I am finding it necessary to talk about or discuss or debate or put a situation or category or title to something, right? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for my life? What is it going to do to help my next steps in where I'm going and what I'm accomplishing and what I'm representing in stance, right? So I don't know. It's it's just me, right? It's just my thoughts. It's just my way of looking at it. It's just my way of understanding respect, right? And how useful, how beneficial, how much more of a unity, can I say, right? We can hold fully, right? Because again, I'm just gonna keep saying it, right? I'm not tired of saying it. I don't care. I don't care, right? It starts from within, right? You are your own community, right? You have your own thoughts. You have your own dreams. You have your own visions. You have your own organs, right? You have your own bones, right? You have your own walk, talk, characteristics, your own hair, right? Your own nose, your own eyes, your own lips, your own freckles, your own blemishes, right? Your own laugh, right? You have a whole community within you. You are a community, right? You are a unit. You are a whole orchestra band, right? So that respects to you and who you are and what you're representing and what you're standing for, standing on, or standing and vocalizing, right? It's only for you to understand, to overstand, so that you're what? Displaying it, showing it, proving it, bringing out a multitude of creations that produce the ongoing effect of life, and how we can continue that cycle of circle to that spiral of attracting your life, right? Not just attracting life, but attracting your life, right? Your life that you are meant to have, are meant to live, are meant to experience, right? And it's not to one up, right? It's not to better or be better or even show that you are first place or that your title is bigger, right? That your house is bigger, that your trophy is bigger, that your car is more expensive. No, there's no need, right? There's no, there won't be, right? No need for the adjustments, right? Because there's just a calm, just a peace, just a harmony within you, right? And it unfolds into a hug and embracing respect, right? But again, that's just me. That's just my thoughts. That's just my opinions. And that's just parts of certain experiences, right? And how to me, for me, right? Showing, proving, and representing how once one achieves the wholeness to respect for themselves, within themselves, right? The embetterment of showcasing and representing can unfold into a wave, right? And that wave will splash, right? And the next one, right? The next individual will take a dip into that splash and stamp that respect and representation for themselves. And before I go, before I slide out, you already know what I'm about to say. So you already know where I'm about to go with it, right? You're always appreciated. Gratitudes, all respect, all love. And remember that self-love is that best love. So let's go out here and start that self-growing, self-healing, and that self-loving, so that as we journey through life, we stamp our life and we take those steps into accessing our access to that self-mastery. And till next time, you already know, it's the one, the only Miss Lady Shay. That butter, that dreamy, that queen. Till next time, keep your head up, keep your nose clean, stay sharp, Peace.